Hey there, I'm here with Hall of Famers Luis Scott-Vargas and Ben Stark. Guys, we've been talking to a lot of people about their first GPs and what their experience has been like here in Vegas. I wanted to hear from some old school vets what their first GP experiences were like and how much things have changed. So, Luis, what was your first GP?
My first Grand Prix was Grand Prix Anaheim 2003. It's actually the first time I saw Ben, though we didn't really meet him. It's like, oh, there's the pro player Ben Stark.
Oh, Ben was a big deal?
Oh yeah, and I had never played in a pro tour at that point.
Now, what about you, Ben? When was your first GP?
Philadelphia. It was the 99-2000 season, extended.
How old were you back then?
16.
You were just 16 years old in your first GP. What was that like?
It was rough. I was playing this Oath deck that Bob Mayer just won the Pro Tour with, and all the pros were playing like tricks and better decks. I didn't have a very good record.
Now, back then, Ben, when you were first starting to go to GPs, what were they like? Because we're standing here before the GP has even started in a massive hall just completely filled with people. What were they like back then?
They were way smaller. That's actually why I went, because Antonino De Rosa convinced me that the only way we were going to get really good at Magic was going to Grand Prix, because you almost always got to play against the pros then if you had any reasonable record. Because, I don't know how many people were at that Grand Prix, but most of them had 300 people, numbers like that back then. So, it was filled with pros.
Was he right?
Yeah, it took a lot of time, but we definitely, got to build up our experience. We used to do a lot of team drafts any chance we could against the best players also. It was different, Like now, this is more like a Magic convention than a Grand Prix to me. So many good events, side events. These bounty events are bigger than some of the Grand Prix that we played in, probably bigger than that Philadelphia.
Yeah, the bounty event yesterday was 500 people. It's twice as big as the Grand Prix that we started at.
Did you guys anticipate that back in the time, Luis, when you were going to those GPs? They were smaller back in the day. Did you guys anticipate something like this happening down the line?
No, it didn't shock me that the first Grand Prix I was going to that was like 1,000 people. Like that seemed pretty normal to me. The difference between 1,000 and 2,000 isn't that big, but once you start getting to like the 4,000 person Grand Prix or the 8,000 person Grand Prix, it's just a completely different universe.
Yeah, did you anticipate this happening?
Not at all. All of this is super shocking to me. Like when I started going to those Grand Prix and they had a couple hundred people, I thought Magic was a good game. I wouldn't be shocked if it grew, but I would have just expected the GPs to have 10% more people each year, you know what I mean? I would expect a Grand Prix now to have 500 if a Grand Prix in 2015 years ago had 200. Like I would have never, ever, ever pictured this.
Yeah, and it's crazy because like just walking over for the interview here, these guys get mobbed for autographs. We had to sign, 3 or 4 playmats just to walk from our little area over here. It's just a completely different world now.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting going. I was like effectively invisible at my first bunch of Grand Prix. I was just like another dude playing at the Grand Prix, and now it's a little different. So it's pretty awesome.
Do you ever get used to that, Ben, when people come up and ask you for advice about limited or want your autograph?
Like me, I ask Ben for advice all the time.
Well, I'm in a really fortunate spot with it because most times people do want to ask me about limited or about draft or something, and since I really enjoy that, I actually usually look forward to it and like answering the questions. The only time it's a little awkward for me is sometimes they'll ask me about Modern and I haven't played it in 2 months or something like that.
Yeah, people have the impression that we know the best deck in all formats at all times, which sometimes I'm up on all the formats. That is true. Sometimes I haven't touched Standard in months, and it's just like, I can't give you good advice.
But whenever anybody comes up to me with a limited question, I'm super happy to answer it. I'm always excited that people still draft and want to know what I think about it and everything like that.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for taking the time, and hopefully you guys enjoy this massive Magic event.